Jack Thunder and the Dawn of Unity. Chapter 9. Tea and Correspondence. Jack Thunder busily scribbled at the parchment in front of him. A single candle provided scant orange light as the wind howled outside. It had been a long day. After he and Stephanie returned home, they needed to figure out where to put Nemesis. The storm gremlin wasn't worried about it draining Tempest Island. The binding spell would prevent that. It was Sun and Frosty he worried about. He knew they would freak out if they saw Nemesis in his room, bound or not. So Nemesis stayed outside, under the spearleaf tree right in front of their house for the time being. Razor shot him a disapproving look, but it was well enough out of the weather for the Wendigo to be somewhat comfortable. Jack Thunder should know. He slept under it many times when he was little, and since it was dark out, no one would see Nemesis until at least dawn. Jack Thunder put pen to paper. At last he'd gotten a chance to sit down. Now it was time to send a message to his friends. He began his letter. Dear Buckthorn, hey there, how have you been? I have something important to tell you. Something really weird is going on, and I think it's gonna take all of us to solve it. I would love it if we could meet up as soon as possible. Thanks. Your friend, Jack Thunder. The storm gremlin took a deep breath. Okay, 1 down, 4 to go. One by one, he finished his letters. As he wrapped up the last one, he stuck all the wrapped up scrolls under his arm and made his way outside. He walked only a short distance in the rain before coming across a squat wyvern wearing saddlebags. A male wyvern. He bent down to the wyvern's ear. These go to my friends. The addresses are written on the outside. The wyvern nodded in understanding. It snatched the letters in its mouth, delicately turning and placing them into its saddlebags. With a few flaps of its leathery wings, it took flight, disappearing into the fog. The next morning, Jack Thunder was surprised to hear a knock at the door. It had only been an evening. Had the rest of the crew really come that quickly? It wasn't them. The male wyvern from last night stood at his doorsteps, clutching a worn scroll in its jaws. Jack Thunder took it, giving the animal a pat on the head as thanks. As the wyvern flew away, Jack Thunder unraveled the scroll. Immediately, he could tell it wasn't from any of his friends. The handwriting was too clean, too fancy. It wasn't something anyone his age would have written. He read it in full. Dearest Jack Thunder, I hope this letter finds you well. I heard about your recent incident with Mr. Twitchett at the Dark Carnival. I am sorry to hear that happened to you. There are some people in Alterus who never let go of the past, no matter how long it's been. It must have been difficult running into one of them so soon after your new friend came into this world. If you would like, I could meet up with you over tea and cakes to discuss the matter further. Just meet me at Yggdrasil's Grove around 1 o'clock today near the Fuzzy Chipmunk Inn. There you will find me at the entrance. I dearly hope you can come. Signed, Ivy. Jack Thunder stared at the parchment in confusion. Ivy? He didn't know anyone with that name. He scanned over the letter one more time. There was no return address or anything that would help him figure out who this Ivy person was. Well, in any case, tea and cake sounded good. He rolled up the scroll and slung Stormbringer over his shoulder. Maybe this meeting would shed some light on the situation. As he made his way to the edge of the island, his mind raced. Ivy, where have I heard that name before? Oh, come on, how hard can it be to find a tree the size of a small mountain? Jack Thunder silently cursed to himself. The ground below was a sea of red and gold. When autumn fell, the emerald woodland became the ruby woodland, or the topaz woodland, either worked. The canopy was still thick enough to obscure the ground from view. Still, it shouldn't have been this hard to find Yggdrasil. How far had Tempest Island migrated from the forest since he'd last been down there? A crunch and a flurry of scarlet leaves later, Jack Thunder realized he'd been looking in the wrong direction this whole time. He dangled from Yggdrasil's mammoth branches like a newly hatched caterpillar. He scrambled atop one and peered down, rubbing the back of his head. He was once again in Yggdrasil's grove. Through the thinning canopy, he recognized the fat trunks of tree houses. He squinted. If he remembered right, the Fuzzy Chipmunk Inn wasn't too far from here. Ah, there it was. He created another riding cloud and made his way down to the ground. There were surprisingly few fairies out at this time of day. No one noticed as he landed right in front of the inn's door. All right, Ivy, whoever you are. I'm here. Come on out. Oh, there you are. I was wondering when you were coming. Jack Thunder turned around. Standing in the shadow of the inn to his right was a massive bear woman. On the outside, she wasn't much different from any other talking animal in the grove. Her fur was a chestnut brown, rapidly graying with age. She wore a plain sundress and worn sandals. Her face was somewhat obscured by a velvet sun hat. She gave Jack Thunder what he assumed to be a friendly smile, but her eyes... something was not right about them. They were the same shade of tawny brown as her fur, but they were coldly fixed on him, as if he were a salmon and not a storm gremlin. Jack Thunder stammered. Are you Ivy, from the letter? The bear woman nodded. Yes, that's me. Jack Thunder's shoulders relaxed just a little bit. So, what is it you wanted to talk to me about? Ivy turned to her left. I'll explain when we get there. Too many prying eyes here. The storm gremlin didn't ask why Ivy felt the need to hide in the alleyway, but as the two made their way out of town and into the forest, he couldn't shake the unease in his gut. Jack Thunder recognized the clearing. It was the same place he and his friends rescued Sour Apple during the last winter solstice. But instead of the Dryad's trailer, a wide tree stump sat, serving as a table. The teapot, teacups, and even the plates were golden yellow and had indentations in them that made them look like they were made from honeycomb. Jack Thunder couldn't help but smile at that. Ivy had thought of everything. The two of them took their seats at opposite ends of the stump. Jack Thunder stared into his cup. The black liquid within smelled like honey and burnt sugar. He took a sip. Care for a forage cake? Ivy offered. She pointed to a plate of small violet cakes. Jack Thunder could see bits of blueberries, strawberries, and raspberries within. Sure. Ivy placed two of the round cakes on his plate. He took a bite of one. Ivy took her seat. I'm so glad you could meet up with me. I've been so lonely since the war. Oh no, what happened? Did you lose your family in the war too? Ivy shook her head. No, they're not dead. It's just that my two cubs don't speak to me anymore. I think their fathers turned them against me. Jack Thunder felt a pang of sympathy for the bear woman. It was one thing to have lost someone in combat. It was entirely another when they just up and left. Why? What happened? He doesn't want me around them, Ivy answered. You see, I have some traditional views, you could say. Bruno, my cub's father, didn't want them getting corrupted, as he put it. Jack Thunder swore he saw Ivy's face darken for a second. Well, Jack Thunder began, taking another bite of his forage cake. After Twitch had attacked us, he said that Miss Butternut told him not to make a scene. None of us knew who that was, but Strombolio got really upset when he heard that name. We think the Anti-Humanist League has something to do with this. Ivy stiffened for a second. A bead of sweat dripped down her forehead. Twitchett's joined the Anti-Humanist League? Jack Thunder took another sip of his tea. Yeah, do you know who this Miss Butternut is? Ivy nodded. I know her very well. I remember seeing her in the news when the portals closed. Jack Thunder wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. That's not the only thing that's gone thunderheads around here. You know that Wendigo I faced down, Nemesis? Well, it showed up on Tempest Island the other day, screaming that this other Wendigo, Malefic, had kicked it out of the flip side. Me and my friends are gonna meet up soon to talk about it. Ivy's ears perked up. The Wendigos were returning to Alterus too? Oh, that's not good. Jack Thunder sighed. Yeah, I know. Only a few months after the thing with the Heart of Darkness, too. He finished off his forage cake. It'll be all right. We've dealt with these things before. We can do it again. The conversation continued. Jack Thunder told Ivy the story about how he saved Sour Apple from Nemesis in this very spot. Ivy seemed enraptured, leaning in to hear his tale, but soon it was time to go. Jack Thunder thanked Ivy for the meal before riding another cloud into the sky. Down on the ground, Ivy smirked. The tea party had gone well, much better than she imagined, in fact. She recalled back to the end of the war. It hadn't been hard to convince the summer and winter courts of Alterus to seal the portals. So many Altarians on the board blamed the humans for starting the war, for attracting the Wendigos to their world. And now, it was just like back then. That had only been 10 years ago. If she played her cards right, she could go back and convince the courts that another war was on the horizon. The ensuing panic would be a golden opportunity. As long as that fool Twitchett didn't mess everything up, that is. Ivy didn't notice the lone Wendigo with the goat skull head watching her from the shadows, its face a mask of worry.